This is NFA Talk, the show that talks about guns and gun rights, keeping you up to date with what's currently going on, from the newest guns, promotions, and events, plus how we're lobbying for your rights.
All right, it's time for another episode of NFA Talk. Today we're going to do some updates, and first of all, let's start with our new president, Blair Hagen. Blair, I'm going to give you the floor, and why don't you introduce yourself to everybody and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Boy, introduce myself. If you've been a member of NFA for more than 5 years, you probably already know me, and you probably know who I am and where I come from. But for those who are not, I will give a brief rundown. I've been a member of Canada's NFA since 1995. I was a field officer in Vancouver, British Columbia from 1996 to 2004. I was British Columbia Vice President of the NFA branch from 2004 to 2005. I was National Vice President again before 2005 to 2007. I've actually been NFA president before, and that was between 2008 and 2010. After our national president, David A. Tomlinson, passed away, I assumed the role, and there were a lot of things going on then. We were in transition, becoming a different organization, and in that time, I took up the position of president to try to ease it through into that. So I was president before 2008 to 2010. In 2010, I became executive vice president of Canada's National Firearms Association. I've been a BC director since 2010. I've been an NFA honorary life member since 2009, holder of the Ray Laycock Memorial Award since 2014. Some of our newer members will not know who Ray Laycock was. That's Major Ray Laycock, who was a very, very prominent and important member of the political firearms community for a very long time through the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s in the previous NFA. I encourage you to do some research and find out who Ray Laycock was. And just because of happenstance, I am national president again. So if I'm new to you, I guess I'm going to become a lot more familiar in the near future. If you've been an NFA member for a while, you already know who I am. I don't need to explain that. So I find myself in this position again. I will take it on with great enthusiasm, and I will certainly give it my all to give this organization the leadership it needs going into the coming years as we continue our battle for firearms law reform.
Awesome. Thank you, Blair. And seeing as you moved up to president, that means your spot became vacant. So now I'm going to introduce our new vice president. That would be Rick Igercich.
Hey, everyone. For those that don't know me, my name is Rick Igercich. I've been on the NFA for 14 years. I've been Ontario director for 5 years. I'm just going into my 6th year now, and I'm your new vice president. A little bit about myself. I've been a firearms enthusiast just about all my life. I started shooting guns when I was 7 years old, with shooting on the farm with my dad with little Weatherby 22 is actually what I started with in a prone position. I worked my way up there from there. I've been involved with firearms and competitive shooting just about my whole, actually my junior and adult life. I started off as a trap shooter. I was on the Amateur Trap Shooting Association ATA youth team in Ontario. I actually shot for my high school back then when you could shoot guns at high schools, and nobody really had any concern about that. And after that, I became an avid pistol shooter. I shot a bunch of bullseye in national match, and kind of graduated on to IPSC and have been doing that. I actually got my black badge in 1986, which is a million years ago, it seems like, but I've been doing that ever since. And I still do a lot of long range shooting and a lot of competitive trap, not so much the trap anymore. I kind of laid back on that a bit and focused more on the IPSC. But, guys, you'll see me on the range all the time, talking to our members and stuff and giving them the heads up of what's going on in Ottawa and stuff. I'm in constant communication with Blair and with Charles, our lobbyist. And other than that, that's what I've got to say, Jordan.
Awesome. Thank you, Rick. And of course, Charles, how's it going?
Hello, everybody.
So I guess what we'll do is we'll move into a quick lobby report with Charles here, and Charles, to get what's going on in Ottawa, what's going on in the gun industry.
Okay, well, you know what? Parliament is back. The 44th Parliament has come together. Unfortunately, it's come together under a minority government governed by Justin Trudeau. So we know that's all bad news. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. We watched the throne speech, and they basically reiterated what we heard in the election campaign, that they're going to basically continue their civil disarmament agenda. And so we were prepared for that. So just the other day, the new public safety minister, Marco Mendiso, he got his mandate letter. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to actually look at that, but no big surprise. But it is filled with all kinds of measures that they tout as being public safety measures that are meant to control crime, and yet do not. They are focused on law-abiding, vetted Canadian firearms owners again. So just to sort of give you an idea of what they're talking about here, and I think there's about 5 or 6 points in this, but they're deep. So they're continuing with the implementation of C-71. For people who aren't familiar with that, that was actually coined and enacted last year. There's various MPs that were involved with that. That is being rolled out over time, and we're going to see more of that now. And also, during the campaign, the Liberals kind of walked back their call for mandatory buybacks of the so-called military-style assault rifles that they coined, which is a made-up definition. Well, now they've basically come out and said that that's exactly what they're going to do. The public safety minister came out the other day in a video just before they broke for the Christmas break, and basically didn't try to hide anything. He said that he's beholden to the anti-gun civil disarmament organizations out there like Poly, the Docs, and Coalition for Gun Control, and he's going to pretty much do what they've told them to do. So that's no big surprise. What's interesting about this is that during the election, I think it was Bill Blair talked about the Aaron O'Toole during the campaign being beholden to us, and there's no evidence of that. It was basically slander. But now they've actually come out. The Liberals have come out and said, yes, we are beholden to Polly and everybody else. So the hypocrisy of this government is it's never ending. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, there's some more here going on. They're requiring that magazines that can hold more than 10 rounds in long guns, for instance, if you're, the old Lars and AR-15, and there's other ones out there as well too. Maybe even the, venerable, Lee Enfield. What they're going to have permanently changed to meet some kind of a new measure. And of course, we know that these measures have nothing to do with gun or crime control. There's all kinds of empirical evidence that already says that magazine size 1, 2, 20, 30, that is not really the issue, right? Everybody who's practiced, quickly loading magazines with their AR-15s, for instance, will see that you're not really slowed down by even a five round mag. You just become more proficient. That's not the problem. It's the person who's operating that gun and what they're using it for. Either they're setting it up for a dastardly deed. Most of us are just going to the range and just having some fun. Once again, another misdirected measure from your tyrannical leader, Mr. Justin Trudeau, and so no big surprise. I'm sorry. I look at all these things and it's just, I got to shake my head because, I mean, we've been working hard for years now, giving them empirical evidence showing that all these measures are ineffective at keeping, these miscreants out there from misusing their firearms. It only harms us, the law-abiding firearms owners we have an enhanced security check. We are actually safer than the public out there. So once again, it's a misdirected thing. There's no doubt in my mind, and there should be no doubt in your mind that they are just using this whole circumstance as a veiled way to advance their civil disarmament program. And make no mistake, it's not just about the semi-automatics and, of course, the pistols, which will probably be coming up in the next quarter of the year. This is about all guns. Okay, so this is a rabid activist government. That I don't have to go into all the different things that they've gone down the rabbit hole, and gun control is one of them, and that means all guns. As the public safety minister came out the other day and said that, oh, we're not trying to disturb your recreational pursuits. Well, they are, right? So they're lying. They just lie and then expect us to believe it. Well, you know what? For me, the trust of this government is gone. It doesn't matter even what they say. They could tell me that the sky is blue, and I still wouldn't believe it.
Well, that's exactly it, Charles. And the firearms community of Canada, and I've been at this a very, very long time, and I've seen the Liberals roll out time and time again their civil disarmament agenda. Now we're coaching it in terms of where we're not attacking legitimate gun owners, we're not attacking hunters, we're not trying to do anything that's really untoward. And every time they do this, they prove the opposite. And I have to tell you that nobody believes them anymore. I think there's probably two tame liberal gun owners in Canada who still believe this nonsense. Okay. And, they may, stand up in the media and on the CBC and that sort of thing. Well, I think these are reasonable restrictions, but nobody else. You're quite you're quite right. The line in the sand has been drawn. This government is kowtowing to civil disarmament fantasists. And the sad thing about this is Canadians are going to suffer. And, they're not just going to suffer, they're going to suffer more. Canadians have been suffering under these gun laws for, really over 50 years. And every round of liberal gun control attacks the legitimate law-abiding use of firearms in this country. And believe me, I'm a C68 guy. That's why I became involved in this. And we knew then that, the mask was off. This party wants to confiscate every firearm in this country. It wants to destroy the Canadian right and cultural tradition of firearms ownership. So there's just no other way to put it now.
Blair, and that's right on. And we've been, rehashing this warning to our members and to the greater community out there for decades now. So yes, here it is now. There, like you said, it's not veiled anymore. There's no secret. This is an agenda. So, unfortunately, this is going to get worse before it gets better. We see what the Liberals are planning, and they've actually used those words. They already have a plan involved, to try to confiscate, fire or handguns coming up. So, that leaves us. Where do we go from here? And we're going to talk about the strategy here, but our members have had enough of this. The government is basically it's burned its moral authority to govern because of its lies. These are bad laws. We do not consent to these laws. And I think for the most part, many of our members and the firearms community at large will not comply in the end. And this is not anything radical.
And you know what? That's a problem. And you say this government has burned its moral authority, and you're quite right. It's burned its moral authority, not just in the firearms issue, but in so many issues that affect Canadians that I think there's a lot of people in this country just standing there going, I don't recognize what's going on anymore. I don't recognize my country. I don't recognize the government. I don't recognize what's happening in my society. I don't know where I stand. Yes. And certainly where firearms owners are concerned, it's a case of I've got this letter from the RCMP saying you're going to come and take my stuff. We don't know when. We'll tell you what you have to do. And I'm going, what happened to the basic principles that this country was founded on? Okay, the respect for private property rights, the respect for the rights of law-abiding citizens. Okay, which we are. Okay, there's no question about that. Even in the liberals, when they pay lip service to this issue, say, well, we know they're law-abiding and we expect them to be law-abiding, and we know they're not the problem, but we're going to take your property anyway. We're going to take your rights anyway. Okay, and it's this liberal idea that if you're a firearms owner, and what they consider to be a law-abiding firearms owner, a firearms license holder, okay, if you complied with the liberal firearms program that was enacted back in 1998 and actually got a firearms license or registered or re-registered your guns and are in compliance with the system, you know what? They still consider you the same type of danger to public safety as any criminal on the streets of Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver. There's no difference. Okay. They look at you the same way, and you have got to understand and accept that. Your government does not respect you. Your government does not think you should have the same civil rights as every other Canadian. That is where we're at now. And I think you'd agree.
Just to underscore that, Blair, and I want everybody to understand that the way they rationalize these overreaches is like this. Okay, so this is a government that, you're right, it doesn't care about doing the moral, ethical thing. We can see how many times Justin's been entrapped by his own blunders. Okay, but what they're doing is that this is all about popularity. Okay, so if there is something that is popular that will keep the liberals in power and get them reelected, and their internal polling says that it's okay, they will run with it despite it being ineffective, unjust, immoral, or whatever. And that's what's going on. So basically,
and I got to hold you there. Yeah. I got to hold you there. Yeah, internal polling, what is popular? Let's look at that. Yes. And as we know, civil disarmament is a popular issue for progressives, for left-wing progressives, for liberals. Okay,
right.
But
that's it's also
just to interject there too, Blair. The last election, when the Conservatives started leaning to the left and got away from their gun policy, I've been out on the road a lot. People are disillusioned. We need to get the CPC back on the straight and narrow with the stuff they're doing too, because people are also disillusioned with them.
And that's a good segue into that issue. What happened in the last election? And I address that in my next column in Canadian Firearms Journal. Okay, I think I lay it out pretty plainly. And the CPC went into the last election in a fairly strong position, and they had good policies on firearms. Okay, we communicated those to our members, and I got to tell you, I mean, over the last few years, we've taken a lot of flack from people in the firearms community, and from some of our members saying, we understand why you support, why you communicate the CPC policy on firearms. We understand why you participate in that side of the political issue, but there's this new party. There's this new party, the PPC, the People's Party of Canada, Maxime Bernier, and he's got great firearms policies. Why don't you put more support behind that? And the thing is, Canada's National Firearms Association does not support political parties. We communicate firearms policy platforms. That's all we do. And I got to make that plainly clear. Okay. We do not get involved in supporting one party or another. We are completely nonpartisan in that way. You got a bad firearms policy, we're going to report that. We're going to communicate that to our members and members of the firearms community. You have good firearms reform policies, we're going to communicate that too. And we're going to communicate that to our members. A lot of our members are also members of the Conservative Party of Canada. Kind of goes without saying, firearms rights are part of conservative politics in Canada, and obviously, we would share members. And I know that we have a lot of members, NFA members, who are also members of the Conservative Party, who are extremely disappointed by that party's performance in that campaign. Here's what happened. They went into that campaign with a very, very strong policy. It was a good policy. It wasn't perfect, okay, But it was a policy that we could support and we could work with towards electing a government that would consider further firearms law reforms, past the reforms that we saw under the last conservative governments of Stephen Harper, Bill C-19, the end of the long gun registry, Bill C-42, minor reforms to Firearms Act regulations. Okay, fine. They have a good chance of forming government, and we communicated that to our members. These are good policies. They're solid policies that can be built on. Make up your own mind. Vote for them if you feel that that is the case. Here's what happened late in the campaign. The Liberals decided we're starting to lose popularity here. We're going down in the polls. It looks like the Conservatives are going to have a real chance to form government here. What do we do? What do we do? Their internal pollsters say, well, you know, this firearms thing is really popular with progressives. I mean, your supporters really, really support this. It's great. Get rid of the guns. It's all good. But what can we do with this issue that might compromise the conservative effort? Well, here's what you do. You, in the last days of the campaign, here's your chance to try to turn that vote around. You put out a big campaign claiming the conservatives are going to legalize assault weapons. They're going to be weak on guns. They're going to be kowtowing to the gun lobby. And you know, a lot of liberal MPs went down that road. And it was a very, very strong message, not to liberal voters. It was a message to rights and freedoms voters in this country. People who thought, well, I think I'll probably support the conservatives because they're our best chance to replace Justin Trudeau's Liberals, our best chance to elect a government that's going to pursue firearms law reforms. But what the effect it had was this: it communicated a message that the conservatives really handled very badly. The conservative leader was put in a position of having to defend his position. He did not do it well. He backed off a fairly strong conservative message on firearms law reform. He equivocated on, and that sent votes to the People's Party of Canada under Maxime Bernier. Our members who feel so passionate about this issue, who take it very, very seriously, and I've talked to them. I've gotten the phone calls, I've gotten the emails, okay? And they said when the conservative leaders' equivocation on firearms rights and firearms law reform was reported in the national media, my vote went to Maxime Bernier. And there was hundreds of thousands of votes that the conservatives lost because they went off message. They did not hold true to their principles. They did not hold true to their policies, and they paid the price for that in that election. Well, not only on this issue, on many other issues. I think we all know that. Rick, you can speak to that.
Well, yeah, on several issues, it was a complete shift, as far as the carbon tax, climate change. The big thing was the guns, though. When the Liberals came out with those attack ads, the Conservatives took it hook, line, and sinker. They swallowed it, and they did a complete shift. Within a day, it almost appeared they did it in a day. They did a complete shift from supporting gun rights, gun owners to, well, you know what, maybe we'll go with the OIC. Maybe we'll...
Well, you know what? I don't know if it was a complete shift, but the messaging was so badly considered and so badly undertaken that it appeared like a complete shift. And I took part in many conversations with, conservative MPs, people in the Conservative Party on this who said, no, that's not what the leader meant. No, that's not what we're talking about. And our message that no, our members across Canada, firearms owners, rights and freedoms voters, because you don't have to own a gun to believe in this, okay? We have supporters right across the political spectrums who believe that this is a Canadian right and cultural tradition, and it's a litmus test. It's a canary in the coal mine. If you back off of firearms freedom, if you back off of firearms law reform going forward, you're weak on the issue, and I don't know if you deserve my support. And look, in Canada today, people have alternatives. There's alternative voters. There's alternative parties that voters can support. And I think the Conservatives really paid the price for that in that election.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. People looked at it. They, of course, conservatives are saying, "Well, we're not doing this shift. We're not going against our basic policies and stuff." But the way people perceived it, the way it was brought forward, everybody thought they did a complete shift.
That's right.
Whether they did or not, everybody thought that, and that's when we had the issue started with the PPC party, because the PPC will tell you whatever you want to hear. They want to get some seats. So, once they get there, we don't know what's going to happen. But in my opinion, right now they're going to tell you what you want to hear, and
that's a challenge we have. We have a lot of there's a lot of people in the firearms community, and I know, and they support the PPC on principle. Okay. I like that party. I like its principles. I like its policies. I like its pro-freedom, pro-rights and freedoms, pro-Canadian right and cultural tradition of firearms ownership stand on this issue. Okay. I know they're a new party. I know their chance of picking up seats is limited, but I am so sick and tired of this in this country. Year after year after year, I want to support something I believe in. And our challenge, certainly with National Firearms Association, was to respect, the beliefs of our members. Hey, I understand why you say that, but the fact of the matter is, if you are going to have legislative change in Canada, you have to elect governments. Okay, only a government can enact legislative change, and all due respect to the PPC, all due respect to Maxime Bernier, they're just not at that point yet. They certainly weren't in the last election. They weren't in the previous election. And I got to tell you, we got a lot of people now, sitting here now going, what do I do? I know this is a right that must be protected. I must be politically active to do it. And what is the best vehicle to go forward doing that with? And the performance of the Conservative Party of Canada in the last election really undermined that. So I know there's a lot of conversations going on in that party now. I know there's a lot of people asking, where did we go wrong? I know we've told them where they went wrong, and we'll continue to do that. I know our members who are also Conservative Party members will continue to do that. But at the end of the day, they got some decisions to make, because Canadians have alternatives. Canadians have deeply held beliefs on this issue. This is a Canadian right and cultural tradition. This is part of who we are. This is the part of what this country is, what it was founded on, our history, and our future. And if politicians are not willing to embrace that, Canadians will develop different political vehicles to do that. And it's happened in the past, in the late 1980s, early 1990s with the Reform Party. That whole movement that went on and the unification that took part in the early 2000s, that was a very, very dark period for a lot of Canadians. We don't want to do that again. I don't think we have to do that again. There's good people in the Conservative Party who understand this on the same terms that we do. Okay? Turn on your mic, Charles.
Underscore what you were just saying there about that there's a lot of people in the Conservative Party that are still on our side. Unfortunately, like you said, we are in a dark period because, the Conservative leader basically painted himself into a corner with his flip-flop, right? Now, if he flip-flops back to his original stage again, right, it's another flip-flop. And of course, the Liberals will take that and they'll run with it. So, this is something that the party has to deal with. There's the messaging was strong going into the election, like you said. They fumbled it at the end. We don't know why, but like you said, that had a very bad effect, right? So this is going to unfold. I'm thinking pretty early in the next quarter, right? For people who don't know, there's a shadow caucus within the Conservatives that are ready to pull the trigger on a leadership review. I know they're trying to put this off to, the next convention, which is in 2023, like right before the next election, which is ludicrous. But if it's going to happen, it has to happen earlier than later. So look for that in the next quarter. I'm looking at this very closely. Of course, I'm in touch with many MPs, so I have my finger on the pulse here. So I will definitely, let everybody know what's going on.
This is a conversation Conservatives have to have, and that's fine. I mean, we are not the Conservative Party.
No.
a hell of a lot of our members are, and they're going to be taking part in this. And God bless them. I know they'll do the right thing. But at the end of the day, the party will decide what kind of party it wants to be. If it will once again come back to those basic principles that embrace this right and cultural tradition, embrace property rights. Yeah, no, I think, you know what? I think they realize what happened. To be perfectly honest with you, I think they realize how they fell down on the job late in that campaign, the mistakes that were made. And I don't know about you guys, but I think they will do the right thing.
Wow.
And with the proper guidance from our members, other rights and freedoms voters, people who believe in rights and freedoms in Canada, yeah, no, I think they will get back on track. But again, at the end of the day, we can comment on this because we have an expertise coming from the firearms side of the rights and freedoms issue. But again, it really depends what Canadians want. I'm pretty confident. I know what Canadians want. I've been doing this for a hell of a long time. I know how these issues sort of roll out and transpire. And it's for a lot of people. And when you're listening to us talk about this issue, you might think, "Oh my God, it's chaos! It's, oh my God, they stab in the back, this, that." No. This is politics as usual.
Exactly.
Okay.
What our members need to know, no matter who's in power, we're going to give it our all to fight for our rights. All our members, all firearms owners across Canada need to know that the NFA is going to be there for you. Hopefully we can get somebody in power that we can deal a little better with, but doesn't matter who it is. We're going to be there 1,000%. Given our people are so focused. They're so passionate about what they do, and they're going to be giving it their all, no matter who's there.
And that's
so
the thing.
As a segue there too, I just want to mention the Mass Casualty Commission that's coming up very shortly. Everybody knows that it was postponed from November. Looks like it's going to be in January. We'll see what happens with COVID. Maybe February. It's kind of up in the air. But once again, I just want to let everybody know that the NFA is a formal participant in that Mass Casualty Commission. If people don't remember what that was, it was the mass murders that happened in Portapique, and so we are one of the two organizations out there that are entrenched in that process. I do have to tell you that I'm seeing some bias, and we are challenging the commissioners in this mass casualty commission to explain why certain things are happening. For instance, I can tell you that there's only two pro-gun orgs that are in this thing as participants, and we've been forced to collaborate as one. Okay. And then if you look at the other side of the list, there is something like 10 groups out there that are anti-gun, women's groups and things like that. Many of them are government funded. And I brought this up with the commissioner. I said, well, they're almost the same, same entities. Why not put them under the same umbrella? Of course, that's not part of the narrative here. You can see this thing being set up, and another thing is that the basis of the Mass Casualty Commission evidence is this thing called the foundation documents. So everything is being uploaded into this, all the reports, the police things, witnesses, and their testimonies and things like that. So that's what's going to be mined in the end for the final decision, and of course the recommendations. Well, I can tell you that is being, controlled very tightly and done sort of done privately in terms of what's going in. And on top of that, we're now finding out that many of the witnesses have been forced to, well, not forced to, they probably have been bought off to sign non-disclosure agreements, meaning that there's key information here that's not going into the foundation documents, and that's going to affect the final decision here.
So basically what you're saying, this is not a transparent process.
I didn't expect it to be, but I didn't expect it to come out so blatantly so early in the game. So like I said, we're there. We're trying to tell you that there is some kind of an agenda going on here. Of course, we know that Trudeau's pulling all the strings behind the scene here. It's supposed to be a third party situation, but of course we know that it's not. right? This is going to be, they'll be blaming the law-abiding gun owners over there for everything, of course, in the end, right? So,
I got to say that in past years, liberal governments would at least give the impression that they were trying to be transparent or nonpartisan in issues like this. But I got to say, and if this burns some bridges with this government, I don't care. I don't think it matters anymore. But this is the least transparent government, the most ideologically motivated government on these issues, and they really don't care. If you don't agree with them, if you're not on their side of the political spectrum, if you're not involved with what the agendas that they're trying to push, they don't care. Sorry, Canada.
yes. And unfortunately, sorry, I just want to wrap up one thing. The liberals, and you're right, they don't care. The only way they're going to care is when you take them to court and they lose through the judicial process, right? So public shaming's not going to work. We are taking them to court. Of course, we all know the May 1st deadline is coming up where we have to surrender our private property to this unjust government. I personally believe that will be delayed because of the judicial process of the review of the evidence that's coming up in September. That may even be pushed up further. So this may be well into another year before we see the conclusion of that whole gun grab situation as well, too.
Well, I think you're right for that reason and several others. I mean, what some people don't really consider here is the logistics involved with the Liberal proposals. Okay. It's wonderful to make these proposals and the underhanded way that they went about doing it with the order in council. But when the rubber hits the road, how do you get it done? And this is what they're finding now. It's not that easy. There's a lot of issues that come up, logistical, even in terms of people's rights, freedoms, and property. Okay. So a lot of people think just because, the government said they're going to do this, so they're going to do it. Well, there's several things that get in their way. Even the planning for this is in its very early stages. Okay. They have not figured out, well, we want to get the guns. How are we going to actually get them? How are we going to actually, this is a huge country. Okay. And we're talking about something in the order, even by the government's own lowball numbers of firearms that it wants to confiscate. I mean, where do they go? How do you get them? How do you make this happen? When they dreamed this nightmare up, they didn't take that into consideration. And this is par for the course for liberals when it comes to the gun issue, gun control. It was the same thing back in the 90s with C-68, where we're going to register every gun in the country in 5 years. You think that's going to really happen? No, we're going to do it. It's going to happen. Yeah, no. Gun owners are going to line up to do it. They're going to fully cooperate because it's the law. Okay. They're going to have no problem with it because they're law-abiding. They, even if they don't agree, they support it. And it's going to happen. And even in the 1990s with consecutive liberal majority governments, they couldn't get it done. Okay. Because, they like to bite off more than they can chew. And I think they may have done that with this particular issue as well.
All right. So just before we wrap it up, because we've been going for about 40 minutes now, I just want to address what's going on with our social media. We're getting a lot of emails from our members that their stuff is being removed, that they're being censored. Please understand, it's not us. It's the social media giants out there, the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitter. They have this community standard. We're not removing your stuff. Bear with us. We're trying hard. We did actually have a meeting with the head of Facebook. We consulted with them. Are they listening? Just like the Liberal government, no, they're not. So keep in touch with us, because we don't know how long our social media is actually going to hold out, seeing this state that we're in right now. Visit nfa.ca. Definitely sign up for our email blast. If our social medias go silent, it's for the reason of Facebook and all them closing us down, because we're a firearms org. We're gonna have our email still active, and they can't touch us there. So I just want.
I would add to that. I mean, if you feel you have a problem with NFA social media, if you feel that you've been treated unfairly, by all means, get in touch with us. Okay, we will deal with you on a personal basis, and we'll try to work through that problem.
Absolutely. So I think we've done pretty good tonight. Let's leave it at that. Hopefully, maybe next week or before the new year, we're planning on a wrap-up show. We're going to have everybody on here. We'll go over everything of 2021. You might want to stock up on munchies and drinks for that one, because I have a feeling that one's going to be a long one. So until then, I'm gonna call it a show. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. Take care.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks for listening to this episode of NFA Talk. Like and follow the NFA on social media and sign up to become a member.